Hey, Lisa, Christine, Diane, Sue Lynn, just want a reminder that, hey, this week on episode 516 of the School of Podcasting, we're kind of doing it stripped down, so no reason to come into the studio this week, and enjoy your holiday week. Thanks, as always, for the great job you do. This week, we're just going to be talking. We have a great Because of My Podcast story. We have a great podcast rewind. There's some really cool stuff that happened on TV this week. We're going to be talking some podcast stats. We're going to talk about changing your podcast recipe, somebody who's going to pivot, and we'll explain why, as well as I'm going to talk about something that I'm really, really scared about, and so I know exactly how you feel. Podcasting since 2005. I am your personal podcast coach, Dave Jackson, thanking you so much for tuning in. If you're new to the show, here's the deal. I help you massage your message. I help you tackle that technology. I help you flatten the learning curve and get you on the road to pain-free, successful podcasting. Our website is schoolofpodcasting.com, and tomorrow, the School of Podcasting will open up June 1st. Get in while you can, because it will only be open for the month of June, and then it'll be closed for the next 2 months. Now, if you're brand new to the show, you have no idea what I'm talking about here. But today, I'm doing the podcast with my favorite microphone, the Audio-Technica ATR 2100, and I'm going directly into Audacity. I have a pop filter, and that is it. I'm not going to touch this audio. I take that back. I will run it through Auphonic when we're done to level out the audio. But other than that, there's no bass added. There's no big bottoms. There's no tiny tops. It's just me and a microphone. And I'm doing this because we focus so much on the tech. And I'm here to tell you, you can buy a microphone and get going, and it really doesn't take that much. So our website, again, schoolofpodcasting.com. Use the coupon code LISTENER when you sign up. And I look forward to working with you on the inside.
In case you missed it, it's time for a podcast rewind.
If you missed it in the news, this was really, really cool. I was very excited about this. Podcasting has been mentioned on Orange is the New Black. It's been mentioned on The Family Guy. It's been mentioned many, many places on TV and in movies. But this week, this was cool. Podcasts, the word, was a category on Jeopardy. Check this out.
This is Jeopardy!
Here we go. Categories for the first round of play today are Chicago, followed by numerical lit, I'm so jelly, podcasts. All right, let's go somewhere else, Aaron.
Podcasts for 200?
One Grammar Girl podcast dealt with homophones, homographs, and this other similar starting word. Aaron.
What is homonym?
Yes.
Podcast for 400?
This network has a music podcast that's called All Songs Considered. Megan.
What is NPR?
Right.
Podcast for 600.
Karina Longworth talks old Hollywood on You Must Remember This, a line from this classic movie song. Buzzy.
What is As Time Goes By?
That's right.
Podcast 800.
Elvis Costello and President Obama have been guests on WTF, this comedian's podcast. Aaron.
Who is Mark Maron?
You are right.
Podcast for 1,000.
On this comedian's Experience podcast, he interviews comics and does recaps of ultimate fighting events. Aaron.
Who is Joe Rogan?
Joe Rogan, right again.
How cool was that? Can I give you some perspective of this? If we go, like, seriously, with everything I had back in the day, I mean, seriously, there are people that were back in 2004, 2000. All we did for the first 3 years is explain what a podcast was. You know, it's like a radio show, except it's on the internet. I mean, that's all we did, as we explained how to get them on your iPod. And so to have that on Jeopardy is like going from horse and buggy to the space shuttle. It's insane. Speaking of that, Edison came out with some new stats showing that podcasting, again, is going up. Just if we look at awareness, like people have you ever heard of podcasting? Well, if we go back 3 years ago, it was 48%. Then last year, it went up to 49%, a whopping 1% jump. But I'll take that. 1% of America is a lot of people. This year, it jumped up 6%. 49 to 55% now have heard of podcasting. It's cool because the number is going up. In terms of people who have actually listened to a podcast, we go back 3 years ago, 30%. Then it jumped up to 33%. Now it's up to 36%. That is 98 million people. And the cool thing about that is just U.S. numbers. So it could actually be many, many, many more. It's really, really cool. But the other thing that got me about that was, when was Elvis Costello ever on WTF? I'm mainly a hard rock, kind of funky kind of guy. But Elvis Costello is one guy I love. It's like, what's so funny about peace, love, and understanding? I mean, Elvis Costello rocks, and I hated him growing up. It's one of those, I don't know if it's a rite of passage. When you get older, you start to listen to Elvis Costello, mainly because you start to look like Elvis Costello. I don't know what it is, but I need to go back and find that episode. All right, I want to share something with you, and I got to tell you, as I record this right now, it's 10:30 on Sunday night, and why that's relative is it means I'm putting off recording this podcast till the very end because I'm weird. I like to put this out at midnight, and usually it's done way, way, way before that, but I'm really putting my back up against the wall, and I'll explain why here in just a second, but I've been holding these webinars about the podcasting puzzle. It's kind of a podcasting 101 thing. If you're interested in this, you can get the replay at podcastingpuzzle.com. And in doing this, we had live Q&A at the end, and I really love to hear from people why, like, what's holding you back from starting a podcast. If you want to answer that question, I would love to hear it from you. Go out to schoolofpodcasting.com/contact. And it's interesting because you know all the reasons why you should start and all the ways that you can benefit from a podcast. And yet there you are with no podcast. And I'm here to tell you, I know exactly how you feel. And you're like, Dave, I think you said you've been podcasting since 2005. If I do the math, that's 11 years. Well, I'm here to say, I've been thinking about running a Facebook ad to promote the School of Podcasting when it opens in a few days for 2 months. Since it closed after the last open registration, I'm like, I should work on a Facebook ad. And I have watched countless videos. I have read white papers, blue papers, green papers on Facebook ads. I've listened to podcast episodes. I know all the pros. I know all the cons. I know that you don't promote a post. That's a waste of money. You need to use the Power Editor. And the funny thing was, I actually joined a membership site that's pretty much just how to use Facebook ads. And instead of watching the videos, I would basically, because you have to be logged in to see them. So I set up my screen capture software to record them so that I can watch them later and then cancel my subscription to the membership site. Not to give them away. I'm not going to do that. I don't want anybody to do that to me, but I want to be able to time shift this stuff, and I want a local copy. So that's a great example of me being busy, but not really productive, if you think about it, because I still have to watch the videos in the end. And so I really was like, I know all the reasons why you should be using Facebook ads. Right now, at least, it's cheap. You can get uber focused on who these ads go out to. I know all the pros. I know I should be doing this. But a part of me goes, it seems like it's really finicky on how the artwork is. And I'm not really sure if I exactly understand how you have to do your artwork. And I'm not really sure. So here I am, a person that knows all the I know I should be doing this. And I know that once I push through this learning curve, I'm going to be like, oh man, I should have been doing this for years. But here I am sitting here with no Facebook ad. And to the point where I've been putting off recording this podcast to tell you this because I feel kind of stupid. But here's the thing. I sat down and said, why? Why am I like not pulling the trigger on this Facebook ad? Well, it's new. It is the unknown. And I don't want to waste my money. I don't want to waste my time, right? What if I make a Facebook ad and nothing happens? Ooh, that's kind of scary, right? It'd be better to not try and fail so you can go, well, I wasn't even trying. I've seen so many students do this over the years. They don't pay attention in class, and that way when they fail the test, they go, forget it. Because that's my background. I've been a teacher. And I don't know what I'm doing, right? I don't know what I'm doing. Exactly. I need to have a crystal clear picture of what I'm doing before I'll take that first baby step. And I thought about this. Have I ever wasted money in the past? Well, let's see. Exercise equipment? Check. Guitars I didn't need? Check. Movies that I knew were going to suck? Check. And there have been things that I've wasted time on. Diets? Check. Marriage? Check, sadly. But when I look back at those items, they're really not a waste. And you're like, wait, you just said you wasted time and money. How is that not a waste? Because let's take marriage. I'm making a joke out of that. But I've come out a better person with a better understanding of my strengths and, more importantly, my weaknesses. Right? If you think about that, right? It's better to have loved than never to loved at all, right? But you learn things. I've learned that some things that work for other people, like, I don't know, the grapefruit diet or the whatever, don't eat anything, starve yourself till you're dead diet, all these, that didn't work for me. But I've seen it work for other people. When I was growing up, all my friends got into weightlifting. No pain, no gain, man. And I just heard, hey, no pain sounds good to me. I think I'll stop right there. So that didn't work for me. But you don't know this until you try it. And I remember the first time I was lifting weights and I woke up the next day and couldn't move. Right? So, but if you think about it, if you push through that pain, if you actually, and I have to do this now, you guys, can we take a 10-second tangent? When you get old, you start to lose your muscle. And I didn't used to have a big chest, but I have almost no chest now. And what I do have is turning into man boobs. It's really weird. So I have to pump myself up. And I hate lifting weights. But I know that if I push through, I'll be proud of myself. I will have an accomplishment and I will have benefits if I push through that learning curve. So I've also, what if I do something? What if I do a Facebook ad and it doesn't exactly work? Well, again, just like a podcast is not a statue, it's a recipe. We're going to hear from Kathy Kelly in just a second about this. I will have then learned what not to do. And in this case, all I have to do is keep my budget low so that I'm not wasting a ton of cash on my Facebook ad. And in the same way, I'm still paying off student loans. Well, okay. Well, so you pay for education? Yeah, in many ways. There are other ways like the library and things like that you can get educated without actually spending money, but a lot of us spend a lot of money for an education. So when I do a Facebook ad and it doesn't work and I go, oh man, I spent $34.17 on that Facebook ad. It's not a waste of time. It's not a waste of money because, hello, I've just learned what didn't work. I've just learned because there's only one way. There is only, unless you're going to hire somebody else, there's only one way to know what are those little nooks and crannies of a Facebook ad, in my case, of how is the weird text to graphic ratio, how exactly does that work? What is the pixel thing that you put on and what are all these little details? There's only one way to know. And that means I have to get off my butt and I have to make a Facebook ad. So I'm sitting here every week looking at you going, come on in. The podcasting water is fine. I'm here to catch you. We can put your water wings on, jump in that podcasting pool, and I'm going to show you how great it is. You're going to love it. Just jump in. Please just jump in. And yet I'm sitting here on the edge of the Facebook pool going, I don't know. So I'm going to say this now, and that is I'm giving myself 2 weeks. So as I look at this, at the thing, we're going to call this May 30th. Okay. So if I go 2 weeks, the week after that would be June 6th, and the week after that would be June 13th. By June 13th, come hell or high water, I will have a Facebook ad. I'm just going to do it because knowledge is only power when you act on it. And I've definitely got enough knowledge now to do this. I just need to do it. And I just need to be okay with the fact that the first ad I do is not going to be as good as the 10th one I do. There's nothing I can do about that. There just isn't. Now, I've already saved myself some money by not pushing posts or whatever that thing is. I've saved myself some money on knowing what tools I can use to make some pretty cool ads. So I've definitely eliminated some hurdles by watching these videos, by contacting people who have been there and done that. But in the end, the only kind of improvement in life is self-improvement. And that's up to you to do. You know, I can stand here and catch you, but it's you that has to jump into the pool. And I'm here to tell you, it's okay. You'll be fine. And I really look forward to working with you. If you are a regular listener to the show, you know I love to hear the answer because of my podcast, Blank. And we've actually kind of got two today. The first one is from Michael Butler. He does the Rock and Roll Geek Show over at rockandrollgeekshow.com. And then the second one, you'll hear a extended conversation with Kathy Kelly from the Special Mouse Podcast. This is a really interesting story as she's going to get into explaining why she is pivoting from her podcast. But first up, listen to Michael, who thought he was dead in the water. He was recording this on his phone. So as we kind of experiment today, I'm just doing this with a microphone. That's it, and Audacity, and a guitar in this case. And he thought he was dead in the water because his computer was dead. Check this out.
So I brought it to the Apple Store. Bottom line is I need a new Logic board. A Logic board, $600 is going to cost me. So I posted on the Facebook, I'm not without a computer for the immediate future. Don't know what I'm going to do. And a listener, Adam, what is it? Adam, I know I'm getting Adam's name right. Adam Tourette, it's not Turetsky. I'm sorry, Adam. Adam, a good friend Adam. Now he's my really good friend because he contacted me on Facebook and says, hey man, if you need a computer, I might be able to help. Once it happened, I said, oh, funny you should say that. My computer died. So he works for I don't know what he does. He does IT for a school or something like that. And it turns out they have a computer lab with a bunch of computers that they're giving away or selling for $25. And he called me up. So bottom line is he's sending me a computer free of charge. The power of the Rock and Roll Geek. It's not even the power of the community of friends of the Rock and Roll Geek Show. I can't thank Adam enough for doing that. Out of the goodness of his heart, he's got nothing to gain from doing this for me, except maybe he wants to hear my crappy podcast. So in the meantime, I thought I would give you an update while I'm driving home.
And that, again, is recorded on his phone using Boss Jock. So you don't have to... Now, in the same way that today I'm having a little more popping peas than usual, and Michael was having some minor issues, but I think that's mainly today because I'm using equipment that I'm not used to using, especially with, I usually use Adobe Audition, and I'm realizing just how far or how long it's been since I've used Audacity. And so, again, I said at the beginning of the year, this is the year that I'm going to get out of my comfort zone, and I'm definitely out of my comfort zone today. And so it's time to call in a nurse. And with that, we're going to head over to my conversation with Kathy Kelly. So if you're thinking about ending your show, there may be other alternatives. Check this out. All right. Well, joining me via Zencastr tonight, In the past, I've always said, your podcast is a recipe, and if you don't like the way it tastes, you can change it anytime you want. And also, of course, the immortal line of Ryan K. Parker from Food Craftsman that if you decide to do something different with your podcast, no one will punch you in the face. And so tonight we have Kathy Kelly of the Special Mouse podcast, and we're going to talk a little bit about her because she's going to change her recipe. So, Kathy, thanks for coming on the show.
Hi, Dave. Oh, great. It's wonderful to be here. Haven't talked to you forever.
Let's go back to the good old days when you first started the Special Mouse podcast. Well, first, tell people what that podcast is about.
Well, Special Mouse is a Disney travel-themed podcast, of which there are many. I decided to start it because as a mother of a child with special needs, he's on the autism spectrum, I was finding that a lot of the shows I was listening to really didn't apply. The content didn't apply to families like mine, and there really wasn't anything out there. So I decided to create my own. I went from blogging to podcasting and really fell in love with the medium. So I was a solo podcaster, and I would typically interview guests on Skype, and we would talk about either their trip, or we would talk about a particular issue, or I might have someone who provides a service or a blog or something that would help that significant subset of the many people that do Disney parks and cruises.
Yeah, it was kind of interesting because you're right. There are a lot of Disney podcasts, but to me, you niche down even one further to, okay, now let's talk about the park for parents with children who have special needs. So I always thought that was just really cool that you just went hyper-focused. What was the kind of reaction you got from your audience?
Oh, great. Very small, but very engaged audience. I have a private group on Facebook. That's where we would hang out and talk. And again, it wasn't just for parents of children with special needs. Most of my consistent listeners are, multiple travelers, like they would go every year or they would go more often. So, had a real, it wasn't as small of a niche as you would think, really, because we had a real wide variety of listeners in terms of age and their condition and where they live and what they liked, whether they were into the cruises or whether they were into the parks or that sort of thing. But a really tight-knit group on Facebook.
Did you have any kind of feedback that sticks out in your head that really knocked your socks off maybe when you came in or just anything that stands out?
Oh, well, on a regular basis, people would be posting from I didn't get a lot of emails, but usually it was through Facebook where people would say, oh, thank you, Kathy. I'm so glad I listened to your show because we just got back and we were able to enjoy. And I was so anxious. I was so worried that my family wouldn't be able to enjoy the parks because of fill in the blank. And, but you reassured me and you gave me all these tips and we were able to enjoy. And I never could quite believe it. I mean, because really I don't set myself up as the expert. I'm not a travel agent. I only go maybe once a year. It's not like I'm somebody that's always there at the parks. I don't work for Disney. I'm not an expert and I never set myself up to be. I think it was just the fact that the conversation was happening and it was so appreciated by people that are often outliers. They're really not included in the mainstream discussion. But lots of emails and I've made good friends too. We've actually met up at the parks. We've connected in real life as well. So,
well, now you're going to switch gears. Let's start off with why.
Well, the first part is there's been no change with my relationship with my listeners. It's not that I'm no longer getting satisfaction. And again, this was a I hate to use the word hobby podcast, because to me it was more than a hobby. It was more of a passion, more of a special interest. It was something I was very keenly interested in talking about. So this wasn't related to any kind of a business or anything like that, but I just got a lot of personal satisfaction and still do. But there just comes a point where after 4 years, I just feel like I said everything that I had to say. I mean, like, how many more times can I talk to someone about their trip to Walt Disney World with a child who has autism? Or how many more times can I talk about, we went on our Disney cruise with a service dog. And like, I just felt like we had explored through the individual stories just about every possibility that there could be. And I'm absolutely sure that I am the only of the many hundreds of Disney podcasts. I'm the only one that ever talked about going to Walt Disney World with a colostomy. But I still love having the conversation. I still love that the undercurrents of every conversation were things like acceptance and the diversity of our human race, and how not everyone is in the same place, and talking about the challenges of having, something, being different in many ways. And so it was really that underlying conversation that was what was fueling the show, more so than the actual Disney aspect. So that's the part that I want to keep.
Yeah, because I know you would keep people up to date if there were any changes at the park or any kind of, any kind of hoops they had to go through and things like that, which was always nice. But I don't know that you can do an entire show. Well, this week, nothing changed.
Yes, because I was extremely focused on only things that would affect my listener. So the main thing was their change in their system of accommodation for guests with special needs, which was an absolute game changer in my listeners' world and in mine. So it dramatically changed the experience of people with disabilities and challenges.
What's the new direction you're going in?
The new direction is Special Mouse is going to change to Special Needs Mom. So being that I'm a mom myself, and the backstory for this is, it's a little bit personal, but we're friends, right? And you're not going to tell anyone, right? This is just,
and nobody's,
it's just between you and me, Dave, so.
Yeah.
So, I had a very difficult winter, personally, and I had a lot of stress and really kind of fell into a very dark place in terms of clinical depression. Mm-hmm. And my personal thing is, like, when I'm really feeling that way, I just sort of disengage. I stopped podcasting and I stopped social media. I just sort of went off the grid, and things were getting very, very serious. Things were getting very dark. And what happened was, it was people from my community that were reaching out to me. I was getting emails and I was getting, all these little, my phone would ding, ding, like I was getting all of these messages on Facebook and people were saying, hey, where are you? What's happening? Are you okay? And so I would sort of flit into the group, just my private group. I didn't go out on Facebook, because I'm not one of those people that really likes to, talk a lot about me and myself. I'm more of, I'm focused on the other person. I guess I'm a nurse, so it's just part of my
it's your DNA.
It's in my DNA, so. But unfortunately, a lot of us, particularly women, who are in the healthcare field, we tend to overdo it, and we get so focused on taking care of everybody else and helping everybody else, and we neglect ourselves, So,
Yep.
So I was like really just totally just burnt out, like totally very depressed, very burnt out. So to make a long story short, the people in my community, my listeners, my group, they were the ones that, kept knocking on the door and saying, hello, where are you? What's going on? So I finally got on and I said, okay, I guess I just have to kind of let them know what's happening. So I shared with everyone what I was going through, and I had such an overwhelming reaction from everyone. Like, just, they were pouring out their support, and just, I thought everyone would be kind of upset with me that I wasn't podcasting. I was in the middle of writing a book that I had run a Kickstarter campaign, and I had raised $9,000 to write this book about Walt Disney World and autism. And I had just absolutely no energy, no desire, I just absolutely couldn't do it. And I felt bad. So through the support of the group and my listeners, and they were saying, it's okay, you have to take care of yourself, et cetera, et cetera. So I finally just was able to say, yeah, okay, it's time. I need to get some help. I need to talk to somebody professionally about this. And I was able to kind of start getting myself together. The truth of the matter is I've just fallen out of love with Disney, which to me sounds crazy, because I was like, I was hyper evangelizing for them. Like, I love the Disney parks, and I love the whole Disney, the whole thing. It was just, and Disney fans are hyper fans. I mean, they are rabid fans, and
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm one of them.
My sister-in-law, you walk in the kitchen and everything is Disney.
Yeah. So it's a thing. So I guess that was adding, among other things, of course, this was adding. I said to myself, you know what it is? I'm grieving. I'm grieving because this thing that was so important to me, I feel like I've lost it. And with it, the book, and with it, the podcast. And so to me, in my mind, I was like, oh no, like everything is just falling apart. I just don't believe in this company anymore. And part of that is because the way that they are treating guests with disabilities and challenges. But the other part of it is that they are raising their prices so much. Like, they're not only accessible, becoming inaccessible to people with disabilities, but they're becoming inaccessible to people who can no longer afford to go. And this is a family, these are family parks. I think Walt Disney is probably rolling over in his grave. He started the parks because he wanted to build a place where the parents and the children, everyone could go and play together. And now, Disney's just sort of pricing themselves at such a point where people can't go. Families.
Wow. What is the current price? I have no idea.
$100 a day.
Wow. Per person.
Per person. So
yeah, well, there you go.
Yeah. So if you're a family of 4, and of course, they have the multi-day tickets so that if you stay for a week, obviously it's not going to be $100 a day. It's going to be less. But that's right about it. And that's just the park ticket.
Yeah, that's not the hotel and food.
The hotel, the food.
The travel.
You're going to have to buy your kids the little light up spinny thing, or, all the
exit through the gift shop,
the dump shop. We call it the dump shop, because they dump you into the gift shop. And yeah. So, the capitalism of it and the money making machine. And of course, I mean, let's be honest, it's a corporation. Right. We know that, but there's just something about that Disney magic and it just became very tainted for me. And I thought, do I really want to continue evangelizing for this company that on the moral compass, like, I'm just not there anymore. It's changed. And it feels like a relationship has died. Like, I loved you. I used to love you. And now I've fallen out of love with you.
Right.
And it's it sounds absolutely silly, but it sounds like a breakup. It feels like a breakup. And I thought, I'm going to lose my podcast, and then I'm going to lose all the friends that I made through my podcast. And when you're in depression, your brain isn't clear. You're
right.
thinking in an unhealthy way, in a very negative way.
Well, and you probably kind of identified yourself. Disney was part of you, and if that goes away, well, then if I'm not, Mrs. Special Mouse, who am I?
Exactly. It is. It's a big part of your identity, and so with the help and support of my listeners, I've decided to step back, but I don't want to give up podcasting because I love podcasting,
right?
And I do feel that there are conversations to have, and that I can continue to have an impact on people. For example, what were you telling me in the email about instead of starting over brand new, to just the difference between what's the difference between me? Because I was in my head, I was thinking I have to start a whole new podcast. Yeah,
I was like, hold on a second. I said, what's your topic? And when you said, well, it's going to be, the special mom. And I'm like, oh, cool. Awesome. Because I said anybody that was listening to the Special Mouse podcast would still enjoy this podcast. It's the same demographic. It's the same kind of listener base. You're just not talking about Disney. Well, that's fine because those people were only spending 2 days at Disney anyway. They had 363 days to fill in. So let's talk about those now.
Excellent point. Excellent point.
And I just thought, well, this will be great. You'll probably end up with a larger audience because not everybody likes Disney, and or maybe they weren't planning on going to a park anytime soon. And so I was like, yeah, let's just rebrand it. You said you want to build a new website for it, though. And I'm like, that's fine. But we can basically take your old Special Mouse listing in iTunes and kind of do some finagling with your RSS feed so that you don't lose your audience.
So anyone who is already subscribed.
Yeah. Because we all know it's hard to get subscribers and to have to turn around and go back to square one when you've already got an audience that's with you. Hey, let's just keep them. And if anything else, let Special Mouse go back to ground zero and we'll take the Special Mouse brand, turn it into your new one and, just give Special Mouse a brand new RSS feed and let that start from ground zero and you'll just keep rolling on with your audience.
Right. And to me, I was like, wow, I'm so like, talk about opening my eyes. It really did open my eyes when you suggested that because, yes, it's true. Not all of my listeners are going to transfer over because this new show is going to be about moms, and about them taking care of themselves so that they can take care of everyone else. So, of course, my guy who was interested in listening to the show because he uses a wheelchair and he loves the Disney races, and so he's a participant in the Disney races, I'm sure he's going to go, moms, that doesn't, I'm not a mom, so he may check out. But like you say, yeah, there could be somebody new who's not a Disney freak. And it's okay to say freak because, I was one. I'm a recovering freak. I have a feeling like for every single person that I lose, I'm probably going to gain back 3 or 4 more.
Exactly.
Well, I was talking this morning with the other mom who I'm going to be and that's another thing. I'm going to be pivoting from solo show to co-host. So
nice.
That's going to be. I think that's going to be a different dynamic. It's going to be something new for me. So we decided this morning, you know what, we're going to just niche it down even further because she's also an autism mom, and we thought, well, Our tagline is going to be, we get it. Special needs mom.
Nice.
We get it. And that's it. That says it all because so many times it's if you're not living this life, if you're not in this situation, even people who love you and support you and they're in your world, and even if they're parents themselves, unless they have a kid who has autism, they just can't possibly imagine. Like you just cannot communicate it to them. It's sort of how like you hear veterans, who come back from serving, and they'll say unless you served yourself, unless you were over there, like there's no way that you can possibly understand the experience. And it's a similar thing. And we say that without judgment, it's just a fact, you have a different experience. So we decided we're going to even niche down even further and not just all special needs moms, but just the special needs moms of children with, autism and ADHD and, all of the cognitive, behavioral sort of things, because that's our wheelhouse.
Right.
So that's how, because we want these women to be able to relate to us.
Nice. I love the idea. And the thing I love about this is you're taking the part that you loved about Special Mouse, the community, the conversations, the relationships that you have, and you're going to leave the stuff that you kind of no longer believe in, the Disney part, take the good part, start a new podcast and keep on rolling. And I think it's awesome. And it just goes to show, again, kind of the power of podcasting, the way, that community kind of helped you kind of dig yourself out of that little hole that you'd gotten into. And you don't think about that when you start a podcast, and it's like a really cool spare tire. You don't really need it, but man, when you need it, it's nice that it's there to help you.
And even in the Facebook group, obviously as in any group, there's always that core group that are always there, always talking, always. There's a lot of people that were, sort of just there lurking. They were in the group and they don't post very much. Well, after I made this one post, like all these people came out of the woodwork. I'm like, oh gosh, yeah, I forgot she was even in the group. Oh yeah, him. Yeah. Oh gosh, and like all of these people just coming out and pouring out their love and support. And
so nobody punched you in the face.
Nobody punched me in the face. Nobody punched me in the face. That's the thing. The only thing they said is, please don't shut down the Facebook group. Because they wanted to keep that, and I'm like, oh, sure, fine. We'll keep the group. We don't have to have the podcast to have the group. In fact, just between you and me, I don't even know if all the people in the group even listen to the podcast. I think they like the group. That
could be. Because that's a great source of topics for the show and insights into things. It just makes the show better. I love my Facebook group. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, Kathy, I wanted to just thank you for coming on. When you told me about this, I'm like, this would be a cool little segment just to do that, just to prove that, yes, you can change midstream. And like you said, you're kind of like, I've said all I have to say and, my heart isn't in it. Okay, well, you just pivot and keep on going. So thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Holy cow. Was that wow. Kathy, thank you so much for sharing that. Let's talk about this for a second. And you know me, I like to have fun on this show, but there are times when it's time to get serious. And depression is not something to mess around with. And the one thing I want to clear up here is somebody who spent a lot of money on marriage counseling, that is, even though I'm divorced now, I would have been married about 6 months, I think, without counseling. So we made it whatever it was. And I just want to let you know, and part of that counseling, they then had us each do our own separate counseling. And there's nothing wrong with talking to somebody to get an outside opinion on what makes you tick. It's interesting, but I guess my point is, so many people think, oh, I ain't going to talk to no shrink because they're going to think I'm crazy. You're not crazy for talking to a shrink. It actually can help in some cases. So I just want to say that up front. If you've ever been thinking about it and, you're like, I'm telling you, give it a shot. I have never come out worse from any kind of therapy or things of that nature. So definitely want to do that. The other thing I want to say here as we get ready to get out the door, today, as I do this, the podcast awards are now open for voting. This is the one where you can vote every single day. Now, we're up against people like Grammar Girl. Now, I love Mignon Fogarty until she's up against me in a podcast award. I've been nominated 8 times now. I have not won one, and every single vote counts. You can vote every day. Go to podcastawards.com, and in the education field, please vote for the School of Podcasting. I'll talk about more about this in future episodes, but it goes on for a couple weeks. So just every day, if you can put it, bookmark that, and please, because she's got a huge following. But I think we can do it. I'm going to give it a shot. So I deeply appreciate that. Also, I will be speaking at Podcast Movement in July 6th through the 8th in Chicago, one of my favorite cities. Dan Franks and Jared Easley and Gary and all the boys over there. Looking forward to that. I'll be doing a Q&A session on that. And then in September, Podcast Mid-Atlantic. Go to podcastmidatlantic.com/SOP, and you'll save a little bit on your registration fee, which is already a great price. This is in New Jersey, and I'll be going to that. And speaking of Podcast Movement, SOP 40 will save you on that. And Paul Vogelzang of Not Old, Better podcast had asked me, I'm kind of an old timer, meaning him, he was saying his age. Should I go to this? It's not a bunch of 20-year-olds. And if it is, it's awesome. I don't think I think age kind of disappears there, except for those of us that go, oh, it's 10:30, it's past my bedtime. And the youngins are like, what? But this is a great place to network with people. I've picked up a co-host, Eric K. Johnson. We do the podcast review show. If you want some insights into your podcast, go over to podcastreviewshow.com. He was there. I have set up numerous interviews. I used to try to do interviews at these events. I don't do that anymore because I don't want to pull people away from the networking, because we all want to be together. And unless it's a special circumstance where it's a video or something like that, we can always talk to each other later. I set up the relationship at Podcast Movement, at Podcast Mid-Atlantic. That's what I do there. I might ask a couple of people last 5 and 5 or because of my podcast, something that's quick, but I'm not going to pull somebody away for an hour, but I will start that relationship there at that. So there's all sorts of things you can really benefit, not to mention the fact that all the different tracks and the different topics that you can actually go in, but I love to go there for the networking myself. So check those out. And everything we talked about today, you can find at schoolofpodcasting.com/516. So this was the Naked Show. This was me. This is what a podcast would sound like if you just use an Audio-Technica 2100. That's about a $60 microphone and a pop filter. So there's another $10. It's $2 if you get the little foam one. And here's how I'm going to finish this show. I'm going to export it as a WAV file. I'm going to run it through Auphonic, which is another free program. I'm going to convert it to an MP3 file in iTunes, and I'm going to tag it and upload it. And that's it. So I know today I'm not used to talking into this microphone as much, so I know there's a few extra little popping P's, and with a little more practice, I would get rid of those. But I did this to show you that if you've been thinking about starting a podcast, the School of Podcasting opens on June 1st. And you want to get in there before all the seats are taken, and then we close the doors. So it's only going to be open through June, and then it's over. But now is the time to do it. And this is what you learn. You don't have to go buy the wrong microphone. This is the right one. And we talk about mic technique and things of this nature. I'm really, really, really looking forward to working with you. And again, if I can work through my fears of the unknown, of wasting my time and wasting my money with Facebook ads, then you can work through get over your hurdles to start a podcast that could change people's lives. We heard how Michael Butler is getting a new computer because people enjoy his music show. Kathy Kelly had an entire community come and lift her up when she was not doing great. It happens. And so it's not about always the money. Sometimes it's about the relationship. In fact, it's always about the relationship. Let me back up a second. It's always about the relationship. Because trust me, if you want to make money with a podcast, if you don't build that relationship with your audience, there is no money with your podcast. That's actually what you're monetizing, is the relationship. So thank you so much for listening. I'll be back next week with my regular setup. Would love your feedback on this. And again, I just did it to show you, hey, this is what it sounds like with a microphone and Audacity. So thank you so much for tuning in. The last thing, I almost forgot to mention this. As you listen to this, it is Memorial Day in the U.S. It's a day where we take time to reflect and say thank you to all of our armed forces who have, given the ultimate sacrifice, and to remember them. So to anyone who serves in the armed forces, I thank you from the bottom of my heart for your service. Thank you so much. I hope to see you on the inside. Take care, and God bless.